Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, and Kasparian. So I'm conflicted now because what do you do on a day where it's deadly serious news, but I'm in a ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na mood? Nobody knows. Only one way to find out. Watch the rest of the show.
No, you're wrong. We know.
We know. Okay, I'm not saying TYT.com. What's that?
You're going to be goofy throughout the show. That's what we know.
Well, no, because any one story where Trump is costing people's lives is going to set me in a completely different direction, right? So it's a roller coaster ride. I'm not saying TYT.com/join to become a member so you don't miss a minute of it. I'm just saying. Speaking of TYT handles, so I know that John and I told you guys this yesterday, but we're doing this thing now. You know, we're trying to raise $2 million overall, $200,000 a month if we can. Keep TYT alive, healthy, wonderful, awesome, independent, progressive. Keep it all those things, right? In fact, we have a new theme. Press on. Okay, get it? Get it? It's a double meaning. Okay. Anyway, so we were trying to get to 250 by the end of March. Well, by the time I come back on and March is over, we kind of did it. And so, but what we're doing is if we raise more than 200,000 a month, we're carrying it over to the next month. So we're not starting anew because I feel like that's more fair. I want to see where we are. I mean, we're only 2 days into April. I mean, how far could we be? Brett, can I see the thermometer? The thermometer is unfortunately a good image these days for us. 51,289. What is this?
So do you want to repeat that in a way that people can understand if they're only listening to an audio podcast of this show?
I'll do it in my Walter Cronkite voice. $51,289. TYT.com/go. Okay. Can I see 200,000 by the end of this minute? Okay, I'm kidding. All right. The best you can. If you look, we got super serious stories, and I know a lot of people are out of work, which is going to be their first story. Don't do anything if you can't afford it. Take care of yourself first. I did a live video about this. We sent 2 million masks to China because Trump did not take coronavirus seriously enough. We're going to talk about it more throughout the show. I need you to take it seriously in your personal life. Make sure you take care of yourself first. And if you can, yes, it would be incredibly helpful to us. But we got a ton of stories for you guys. Let's get going. All
right. So previously, it was reported that 3.3 million Americans filed for unemployment in the first week that the federal government had urged everyone to stay home. Unfortunately, the number has skyrocketed. An additional 6.6 million Americans filed for unemployment last week, and that's on top of the 3.3 million who had previously filed for unemployment. The Washington Post reports that in March, 10.4 million Americans lost their jobs and applied for government aid, and that's according to the latest figures from the Labor Department. Many economists say the real number of people out of work is likely even higher. And that's because some people are having some difficulty filing for unemployment. In fact, after the Congress passed the stimulus bill, of course, a lot of people started going onto their state websites to apply for unemployment, and they just don't have the bandwidth to deal with that much online traffic. So once all of that gets smoothed out, unfortunately, the number is going to be much higher.
Yeah. So there's a second problem here, guys. So 10 million people out of job in 2 weeks breaks all record by orders of magnitude. So we told you last week when there was 3.3 million unemployed in a week that had quadrupled the previous record back from 1982. Again, more than 4 times as bad as the 2008 crisis at its worst. Now, this week, it's double the previous record of last week, which had quadrupled the previous record. So 8 times worse than the worst period ever before. But that's problem number one. Problem number two is that means there's now likely about 10 million more people with no health insurance in the middle of a worldwide pandemic.
Yeah, this is why it's a huge problem for healthcare to be tied to your employer, because during regular times when we're not undergoing a pandemic, your livelihood and your health is completely tied to your employer. And so it makes you, maybe less mobile when it comes to other job opportunities. You're less willing to take risks. And in cases like this, it really does create a disastrous situation. In the middle of a pandemic, when you need access to healthcare more than ever, it just doesn't make sense to have your health insurance tied to your employer. And Cenk, I wanted to give you a few more statistics about, how this very likely depression compares to what we experienced in the past. So this blew my mind. So we all know what the recession was like in 2008. Well, the past 2 weeks have seen more people file for unemployed claims than during the first 6 months of the Great Recession. And the federal government hasn't released official unemployment numbers. Gee, I wonder why. But we do know what the economists are saying in terms of the percentage of unemployment. And they think that right now it's around 10% of Americans unemployed, which is an incredible number. Even during the Great Recession era, the U.S. unemployment rate only hit 10% for 1 month in October of 2010. So we're in a lot of trouble. And the question is, will there be a so-called phase 4 stimulus? And that's actually a pretty hot button topic between Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell. Apparently, Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi have floated that idea, but Mitch McConnell is resistant to phase 4, which would include a jobs plan related to infrastructure.
Yeah, so give you guys more sense of scale. In 2008 crash, the Great Recession, I remember being livid about 8 million jobs lost because of Bush's incompetence and the bank's criminal, not just negligence, but fraud, et cetera. We just lost 10 million jobs in 2 weeks. That's the entire state of Michigan. That's larger than New York City. So just to have a visual of Manhattan, you know how packed it is. And think about all of Manhattan, then add in Queens, Bronx, Brooklyn, Staten Island. It's more than that number of people, all unemployed immediately. Look, think about it, guys. The restaurants are all, a lot of them are closed and closing. Hairdressers, gone. You just name it. Go down the list. They're gone. By the time Anna and I, in the post game a couple of days ago, were talking about the restaurants were daydreaming about going into and sitting down and having a meal at once this thing is over. But once this thing is over, they might not be there. But the first thing they do when they run into trouble is they fire all their workers. Look, it's one thing for hard-pressed businesses like us. We're trying everything in our power to keep everybody, and so far so good. And you guys have been super helpful on that, tyt.com/go. But if you're a restaurant, what are you going to do? Nobody's coming in. You can't, waiters, bartenders, gone. And so we're hoping that once this is over, they're going to rehire folks, but we don't know when it's going to be over. We don't know if those businesses are still even going to be here. This is, and then you got the whole world closing down, curfews in Thailand, Kenya, Cyprus, you name it. The whole world is closing down. Stock market went up today because of some oil deal. Are you guys insane? I hope that we bottomed out and we're going to keep going up, right? But my sense is we crossed 1 million cases of coronavirus today, just a couple hours ago, worldwide. 51,000 deaths, 5,000 deaths in America, about 250,000 cases in America. We're now number one in the world in number of cases. And this thing's rising exponentially. I read an article, coincidentally, that was from 13 days ago saying, oh my God, Spain has 288 deaths. 13 days later, they've crossed over 10,000 deaths and rising, right? So the economic devastation, let alone the financial and the health devastation and the lives lost is going to be on a scale we haven't seen before, and it already is.
Yeah, some members of our audience made a really good point. We were talking about food in one of our post-game shows, as we do. And the topic of small businesses came up and the possibility of some of our favorite small business restaurants shutting down permanently. And so if you are ordering takeout, I know a lot of people still are, just think about supporting your local small businesses. Every little bit helps. And that's certainly something that I'm going to keep in mind moving forward. But I think that the possibility of these businesses shutting down permanently is correlated with how seriously your state, this country takes the pandemic, because there are still states that are not taking it seriously enough. They do not have guidelines or any type of mandate in telling people that they need to stay home. And so it doesn't make sense for one state to take it seriously and another state to not take it seriously. That's needlessly going to drag this situation out longer. We need to get this virus under control. We need to stop it from spreading. And the more we have people not taking this seriously, the longer this is going to last. The more the virus is going to spread, the longer we're going to have to self-quarantine.
Yeah, last couple of things here, guys. There's still 12 states in America that have not ordered a full shutdown. That's crazy. So you need a stay-at-home order. Those governors have not done it. It's not only negligent, potentially criminally negligent, because if there's an outbreak in the middle of the country, it's then going to ricochet back into the coast, and it's going to keep going in waves. Look, like Texas has not ordered a full shutdown yet. Governor Abbott, massive idiot right-winger that he is like, well, I'll leave it up to the local mayors and cities, et cetera. And a lot of them have done a stay-at-home order, but not all of them have. And so a bunch of kids go to a spring break at University of Texas. Boom, what happens? Coronavirus. So it was, first they thought it was 28, then 40, now up to 44 cases. And it goes and goes. This is unbelievably contagious. So if you can't have some places not shelter in place, because then they're going to spread it. It's going to spread like wildfire, and it's going to come back to family and friends in other places. And finally, I want to come back to the healthcare point. Hashtag Bernie was right. There's no question that we should have Medicare for all. So we're going to have now tens and tens of millions. We already had tens of millions that didn't have insurance. We just added another 10 million that don't have health insurance. And they say, well, if your life's on the line because of coronavirus, we'll get you testing for free. And maybe, it depends on the insurer you have, we'll waive your copay. Wow, aren't you merciful? Are you going to waive the deductible? Are you going to waive the premiums? No, right? And this is the case of coronavirus. How about if I got stage 4 cancer? How about if I have a heart attack? No. We're going to let you die in all other circumstances if you can't afford or if you don't have insurance. Hell no. Everybody's saying right now, everybody needs to be covered for coronavirus. Guess what? Everybody needs to be covered for everything. Every other developed nation on earth has single-payer health care, and they don't let their citizens die. Bernie Sanders should do a massive Medicare for All speech now. He should be unabashed about it and brazen about it and say, we were right. Medicare for All is an absolute necessity, and it is unconscionable for this country not to have it and for the Democratic candidate not to be in favor of it.
Couldn't agree more. Well, let's move on to what Donald Trump thinks of governors who are unhappy with the job that he's doing. So Donald Trump is displeased at some of the criticism he's getting from the likes of Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. In fact, Chuck Schumer recently was on Morning Joe, and I think he made a pretty strong argument for how incredibly unprepared and incompetent Donald Trump has really been throughout this pandemic. Take a look.
This is terrible. My governor, who's doing a great job, my mayor, I think he's doing a very fine job. They're calling all over the place for equipment, for ventilators or for masks or for PPE. And that's because the system that the administration has put in place is horrible. I am sending a letter to the president. We need him to put in charge a czar of the whole production and distribution of these materials under the DPA. That should be a military man. The military knows how to get lots of materials in lots of different places quickly. Somebody who knows quartermastering, who knows logistics, who knows command and control. I have to tell you, I spoke to Professor Mr. Navarro, who was in charge. I was very disappointed. He's a good man. He's a professor. He knows a lot about China. He knows nothing about this. So I am calling on the administration to put in charge of both production and distribution of materials, a military man as czar under the DPA. As you may remember, I called the president 2 weeks ago. I said, enact the DPA. He said I would. And then 3 hours later, he changed his mind.
So Trump went on a Twitter rampage following that video of Chuck Schumer. And so he said the following: somebody please explain to crying Chuck Schumer that we do have a military man in charge of distributing goods, a very talented admiral, in fact. New York has gotten far more than any other state, including hospitals and a hospital ship. But no matter what, always complaining, it wouldn't matter if you got 10 times what was needed. It would never be good enough. Unlike other states, New York, unfortunately, got off to a late start. Okay, rich for him to say something like that. He also says you should have pushed harder, stop complaining, and find out where all these supplies are going. Cuomo working hard. Now, keep in mind that the federal government did not do proper maintenance on the ventilators that we desperately need right now. And as a result, our stockpile of ventilators includes equipment that is unusable. He minimized and belittled the COVID-19 crisis and didn't take it seriously until the last minute. I mean, it's so to call governors who are struggling right now complainers, it blows my mind.
So we have as serious a situation as you could possibly imagine. Everybody is talking about how we're on a war footing. We lead the world in number of coronavirus cases, 250,000 approximately, people dying all across the country. And we got a president who's still doing childish nicknames like, oh yeah, you're crying Chuck Schumer. Really? I don't know that it was ever appropriate for the president to be a child, but it's certainly not appropriate now. And instead of taking responsibility, the buck stops here. Of course, he legendarily said a couple of weeks ago, I have no responsibility at all. I take no responsibility at all for any of this. He's such a sick man. He now says, no, it's not me. It's not me. It's the governors. And they're sitting there complaining like a bully. In a schoolyard, taunting though. It's not me. Yeah, I pulled her pigtails, but she said something mean to me first. But
right, I mean,
not third grade. People are dying. There's body bags piled up in front of hospitals.
Exactly. And you hear all of these ridiculous talking points about the importance of unity right now. So anyone who's critical of Trump or even, weird ways of like stretching to blame Bernie Sanders for not unifying the Democratic Party right now. We should be unified because of COVID. Like, it's nonstop, right? But I bring that up, Cenk, because what Trump has done in telling all these governors to fend for themselves is he's created a situation where it's every man for themselves, right? And so it's by its very nature not a very unifying way to handle this. And what's the whole point of the federal government? The federal government is supposed to be in place to protect us and lead us in situations like this, in crises like this. And by the way, as a progressive, I'm not the only one who thinks that, because Republican Governor Kasich had some pretty strong words for Trump as well. Take a look.
This morning, the president is tweeting attacks at governors, saying that they're asking for too much. Yeah. Where is this coming together that everybody's been calling for?
It's inappropriate, Jim. You can't do that. And the fact of the matter is, if I were president, I would have the Bezoses and the Walmart executives, I would set them free. I am told by people who are in the bowels of the logistics operation in our country that the bureaucrats are holding it up. They need to be our heroes. They need to be our leaders. And that has to come from the top. And, in fact, the president needs to let his cabinet know, get your people doing their job and bring the best people in, the people that do this all the time, how you deliver, how you make, how you manufacture, how you distribute. We're America. America doesn't fall short on this kind of stuff. If we are free to go on, we need to fix it. And it has to come from the top. And none of this attacking governors. They have a legitimate complaint. Answer them.
Yeah, and I actually want to add to what Kasich said there, Cenk. Let's go to the last graphic here, because this was something that I don't think most Americans know. At a time when our healthcare providers, the doctors and the nurses on the front lines, battling COVID-19, need emergency equipment, they need protective gear. Turns out that some of the private companies in the United States are actually shipping out these products to foreign countries that are purchasing them. So Politico reported the government has yet to curtail exports by U.S. companies. Roughly 280 million masks in warehouses around the United States were purchased by foreign buyers on Monday alone. A FEMA spokesperson said the agency has not actively encouraged or discouraged U.S. companies from exporting overseas, noting that various U.S. agencies are coordinating their activities with their overseas counterparts. What are we doing?
No, that's insane, man. This is exactly the what's wrong with incompetent management. So Trump claimed America first. If ever there was a time for America first, it's right now, because we're leading the world in coronavirus cases. Philosophically, I love helping the rest of the world. I think it's a great role for America. I think it buys a lot of goodwill, and it has not only a moral component to it that is so important, but also it helps us economically down the road, etc. But right now, we have a shortage of masks in this country. Not only should everyone have masks, because scientists just warned the White House yesterday, this is something we already knew, but the further information on it doubles down on what we were worried about. You can contract coronavirus by talking to people in the same room, by breathing the same air in the same room, by breathing. It is way more contagious than other diseases. It lasts in an enclosed space 2 to 3 hours. It's not in droplet form. It's in much smaller aerosol form. Not only does the whole country need it, but there are nurses and doctors that don't have masks right now. Insanity, insanity. They're playing Russian roulette with their lives. Article after article, I'm seeing this number, 10% of doctors and nurses that are getting coronaviruses. And those are the ones taking incredible precautions. You're sending people into the front lines without masks because our guys want to make a buck, and they just sent 280 million masks to other countries? Oh, for Christ's sake. Then America first doesn't mean anything. You know what it is? It's dollars first. It's profit first. It's greed first. That's what it is. So no, look, I want to help other countries, but right now we need to help. We need to help. We need every mask we can get. You should not go into any enclosed space without a mask. But our guys are going, oh, hey, no, other countries, I guess they're paying more. So I'm going to make an extra buck by giving it to other countries and not to you, not to your family, not to your neighbors, not to your parents. It's unconscionable. Look, even Kasich, he's a Republican, right? So his answer is to free the executives at Walmart and Amazon, to free them? Like, of course, the Republican answer is always like, how do I put my beloved corporate donors on a pedestal? But even Kasich says, my God, man, of course you're supposed to be coordinating at the top, because that's where you are. The governor of Ohio and Arkansas are not at the top. The president is at the top. He's supposed to coordinate all the states, all the emergency measures. Look, they had a report written out, handed to them. They had so many reports written out, not just by the Obama administration, handed to him, which he put on a shelf and never used. We discussed that before. Ken Klippenstein, used to be our reporter, now at The Nation, broke such an important story. The Pentagon, 2 weeks before Trump got into office, finished the report and handed it to Trump, saying a virus just like this would break out. And you need to be prepared. And the most important thing you need to prepare is medical supplies. Meanwhile, Trump, as late as the end of February, said soon, quote, the cases is now, the quote, going down to close to zero. That was about a month ago, and he thought the cases were going to be down to zero. And just a couple of days ago, he said, oh, if only 200,000 people die, not the number of cases, we're already at 250,000. If 200,000 people die, that'll be a success. Total, utter incompetence as a leader. And look at where we started the story. The fool is sitting there watching MSNBC to see what they're going to say about him. Because still at this late date, he cannot get past it because it's pathological. His narcissism drives everything. Does not care about you. Only cares about himself because he's a sick, sick man.
And what's even sicker is that he's got a lot of influence over Republican governors who have not made good decisions when it comes to this pandemic. When we come back from the break, we'll talk about Georgia's governor, Brian Kemp, who demonstrated to the entire world how incredibly ignorant he is about what COVID-19 is capable of. We'll be right back.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom, In each episode of On the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
All right, back on the Young Turks. And my mood in the beginning of the show apparently has caused some controversy. Let's go to our members. August says, I'm glad Anna's here to level out Cenk. Talk Bernie to me says, Cenk, your good mood is infectious. Thank you.
It's true.
Appreciate it. But as I predicted, the minute we did one negative story, I got super mad. Anyway, Sexy Speed Racer writes in, exactly what I've been saying for years now. Tying health insurance to employers is not only immoral, but also a burden on smaller businesses. Well, don't I know it, brother? And it makes no sense at all economically or morally. And the Ethernet writes in, my dad, who's 70 years old and has respiratory issues, has been fighting what appears to be COVID-19 for 4 weeks. He retains his optimism and humor, and I think he's going to make it. We can't confirm if it's COVID-19 because they won't test people unless they're about to die. It's bleak. So, see, those experiences that you guys are having, so important to share with us so we can share with everyone else. Because Trump said a little while back, oh, don't worry, and he had all these Fortune 500 CEOs up there, and he's like, oh, they're going to produce millions and millions of tests any day now, and it's all solved. No, it's not solved. There are no tests. Finally, there's beginning to be some tests in some areas, but still, from way, way too many people in this country have to be near death to get a test. And last one's from YouTube Super Chat. We always appreciate it when you use that. Keegan King says, I'm a concerned defensive DOD employee, obviously Defense Department. Can TYT please talk about this, please? And he quotes an article, Pentagon orders bases to stop reporting coronavirus numbers as cases surge. So, look, this is the stuff that China does, where they cover up the number of cases so their government is not embarrassed. That's not what we're supposed to be doing here in America. But unfortunately, under Donald Trump, that's exactly what's happened.
So I'll look into that story. Thank you for tipping us off to that. One other announcement before we move on to the rest of the stories. We have an affiliate program here at TYT as a way to help us grow our membership base. We love being held accountable by our members and our audience. So that would be great, a good way to keep TYT sustainable. But our affiliates also get a portion of the proceeds, and it's a win-win situation. So if you'd like to learn more about this program, just go to tyt.com/win-win, tyt.com/win-win. All right. With that said, let's move on to the rest of the news. The coronavirus continues to spread rapidly in states like Georgia, and Georgia's governor, Brian Kemp, has been restricting some of the, safety measures, some of the lockdown measures that are necessary to halt the spread of the virus. Well, recently he demonstrated for the entire world to see just how little he understands the severity of COVID-19. Take a look.
Finding out that this virus is now transmitting before people see signs. So what we've been telling people from directives from the CDC for weeks now, that if you start feeling bad, stay home. Those individuals could have been infecting people before they ever felt bad. Well, we didn't know that until the last 24 hours.
So he is arguing that he did not know until very recently that asymptomatic COVID-19 patients could be spreading the virus. We knew literally months ago that that was the case. In fact, Anthony Fauci back in January warned everyone about that. He said, you know that in the beginning, we were not sure if there were asymptomatic infections, which would make it a much broader outbreak than what we're seeing. Now we know for sure that there are. It was not clear whether an asymptomatic person could transmit it to someone while they were asymptomatic. Now we know from a recent report from Germany that that is absolutely the case. That was from Dr. Anthony Fauci, January 31st of this year.
Guys, everyone in America that was paying attention knew a month ago. So January 31st, obviously, is 2 months ago. So the government knew, CDC put out guidelines saying, watch out, you might not have any symptoms, but you could be spreading the virus anyway. This is the governor of Georgia. He has millions of lives that he is responsible for in his state. And this moron of morons goes out there yesterday and says, no one knew that you might not have any symptoms and be spreading the virus until yesterday, he said, until 24 hours ago. No, you idiot. We all knew. We all knew. And so he didn't shut down his state. He didn't tell people to shelter in place. Why? Because he's an idiot. And he's so stupid that he doesn't know how stupid he is. See, if you didn't know something really, really important that could cost lives in your state, you at least should be savvy enough to hide the fact that you didn't know that. That should be deeply embarrassing to you. You could do a Google search. You could ask one of your assistants. You have thousands of people working for you. Hey, Bob, did anyone know that you could be asymptomatic and actually have the disease? Well, yes, Governor Kemp. Actually, everyone except you knew it. You're a goddamn idiot. And so don't say that in public because people might get mad at you. But he didn't even bother to do that. No wonder he likes Trump. It's Trump 101. Bathe in your own ignorance.
Well, look, one of my guiding philosophies in life is that you should believe people when they show you who they are. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. And Brian Kemp was very clear in telling everyone who he was when he was running for governor of Georgia. In fact, let me remind you all.
I'm Brian Kemp. I'm so conservative. I blow up government spending. I own guns that no one's taking away. My chainsaw's ready to rip up some regulations. I got a big truck, just in case I need to round up criminal illegals and take them home myself. Yep, I just said that. I'm Brian Kemp. If you want a politically incorrect conservative, that's me.
So just keep in mind that his own incompetence is likely going to claim the lives of more people than undocumented immigrants would, which is a talking point, by the way, that you hear from conservatives like him about so-called illegals all the time. It's incredible.
So, now, of course, Kemp is the illegal governor of Georgia. He didn't win that race. When he was Secretary of State, he wiped away hundreds of thousands of people from the voter rolls, people that he knew were more likely to be Democratic, so he could steal his own election as he was running for governor. And he did steal it. There's no question Stacey Abrams would have won that race if they hadn't purged all those votes illegally. So so that's why I'm not blaming the good people of Georgia as much as I would if I thought he had legitimately won the election. But for those people who actually voted...
Look, I know, but I totally agree with you. And geez, just thinking about how much better the situation would be if Stacey Abrams was in charge of Georgia, it's just devastating. But, he has supporters, and that kind of mentality resonates with at least 35-40% of this country. And so there are consequences to that ideology, and we're seeing it right now in real time. That's the point I was trying to make. I'm not blaming the voters, but let's believe people when they tell us who they are.
No, I'm about to blame the voters. Hold on.
Okay.
So, first of all, he says, I don't like regulation. I'm blowing up. No, you love regulation when it was regulating voter purges. You did regulation after regulation to wipe out African-American voters, student voters, any voter that you thought might vote Democratic, you wiped them out through regulation. So you're a total goddamn liar. But secondly, for all the people who did vote for Brian Kemp, you saw that ad and he's like, I'm a dummy. I don't like to do government. Put me in charge of the government so I don't do no governing. And then you voted for him like an idiot. So don't cry to me now that you've got outbreaks in Georgia and you've got massive health problems in Georgia because this moron of morons didn't tell people to stay at home and shelter in place. He told you he was stupid. He told you he didn't want to govern. He told you he didn't even believe in government. And then you put him in charge of government. How stupid are you to put Kemp in charge? Well, then you had it coming.
And finally, I do want to go to the last graphic. It's not about Brian Kemp, but it goes along with a pattern we're noticing with Republican governors not taking this pandemic seriously. So the Washington Post reported that Alabama Governor Kay Ivey has also said some strange things about the data in her state. She said Tuesday of the infections in Alabama, y'all, we are not Louisiana. We are not New York State. We are not California. As the Washington Post's Philip Bump noted, though, the rate of the spread in Alabama was similar to the early days of New York and worse than in California. You guys, I don't know what we can do, right? But we have to hold these governors' feet to the fire. We got to get them to act responsibly. Like, human lives depend on it. And it's just devastating how hard-headed they are and how they refuse to do what it takes to keep people safe right now.
So look, guys, first of all, we all live in the same country and we're all neighbors, whether we're Republicans or Democrats. So the reality is we want to actually help save your lives because progressives are smarter than you. Why? On one fact alone, let alone everything else. We believe in science and you idiots don't. Say, oh, climate change, I don't believe in no climate change. 99% of world scientists believe it, but I don't believe it because Trump said it wasn't true, okay? You're an idiot. You're a moron. But, okay, so on climate change, it's a slow death for all of us. But when you have viruses and diseases, it's an immediate death for us. So I want to protect your life, even though you cause so much damage in this country and throughout the world, but I don't want you to die. But secondarily, and just as importantly, you're our neighbors. Because so when you get the disease, it makes it more likely we get the disease. So it doesn't help anybody for anyone to have this disease. And progressives are also more moral than the right wing. The right wing says, if it happens to me, I care a lot about it because it's me, 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 me. It happens to someone else, I don't give a damn, okay? It doesn't bother me at all until it happens to me. Progressives say, no, I care, even if it happens to a person I genuinely dislike or tremendously dislike, I still don't want it to happen because we're more moral, we're more decent than the right wing. So in this case, I don't know how else to tell you to stop your ignorance, but culturally, the problem is you celebrate ignorance. I talked about the Alabama governor a couple of days ago. I did a live video on it. You should check out either tyt.com or youtube.com/tyt to get all of our videos, okay? So what does that mean? I mean, think about how stupid a statement that is. Well, we ain't New York and we ain't California. This is Alabama, y'all. What does that mean? What does that mean? That says this is Alabama. We're dumber than the rest of the country. So even though the virus is spreading at a quicker rate than in other places, we're not going to warn people. We're not going to protect them. We don't care about their health. All we care about is money, 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 greed, greed, greed. I want to slow down business in Alabama. So I want you to go out there and do business, okay? But, does that help your business? No, because more people get sick, and it hurts business in the long run. So we have a massive cultural problem in this country, which is then creating and exacerbating our health problem, which is that the right wing does not believe in knowledge. They don't believe in facts because Trump told them not to. They don't believe in scientists. So now we're battling folks who are just going around going, no, science don't know anything, not true. I just found out yesterday what everybody else knew. And these idiots are in charge. You've got governors running around celebrating their ignorance. So right wing, You're destroying this country. I hope you're happy about it.
All right, quick break, and we'll be back with a Florida pastor who wants to throw a Woodstock for religious folks. yeah, we have the details on that and more.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your active ID more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
Back on the Young Turks, Jake and Anna with you guys. Let's before we go to insane pastors trying to get their parishioners killed, let's go to your comments. Carson Road writes in from the member section. I'm sorry I can't donate this week, but once I get my stimulus package, I hope to donate a percentage of what I don't need. Thanks for keeping me sane during this crisis. You know, when I see that stuff, you know, I can't believe it. And Carson, you've got such an open, wonderful heart. Appreciate everyone who can do it. TYT.com/go. But don't do it if you think you can't, and don't do it if you need it. Okay, so be careful and make sure you protect you and your family first. But it's when you guys write in the notes about how much we help in keeping you sane and hopeful and all those things, it's the best thing in the world for us. So deeply, deeply appreciated. Let's go to more cray-cray souffles. Hey, Jane, please say it again, even louder. How stupid is Brian Kemp? Marcos, not Marcus, writes in, and this is really important. I work in a New York City public hospital. I've told management I've had symptoms the last 2 weeks, and I was still required to go to work. Keep in mind I have to ride a bus for 40 minutes each way. When tests finally become available and I requested to take one, my supervisor yelled at me and accused me that I just wanted, quote, free time off. I'll have my results tomorrow after I report back to work. And then he says, LOL. Marcos, I love your brother, and I know you're trying to like keep sane, but of course it's not an LOL. Like, so think about it. If he's got the disease, he takes a bus every day for 40 minutes. So he's in the bus, and we just told you in closed spaces, it's in the air, and you can catch it. Not only is it in the air, if he touches the steel on the bus, which he almost certainly does, it lasts there for 2 to 3 days. And then he gets to work in a hospital where a lot of people are sick but don't have coronavirus. And if he has coronavirus, he's spreading it to all of them. Oh, but you're trying to get free time off? That's the mentality? Now, you guys, man, people are not getting it. It's so devastating that that kind of ignorance exists even in hospitals in New York. Darkwing Wings writes in a YouTube super chat, I'm very disappointed by the primary results, but I still watch TYT. I hope most Americans understand the importance of Medicare for all. We have it here in France, so I don't mind losing my job. I still have health care. Not here in America. Here, you go in the woods, and God help you if you get sick. Look, there's a lot of folks on Twitter who said they were enjoying my accent. I appreciate it. I know others didn't. That's life in the big city. Let's keep going.
All right. So some of the evangelical leaders in various states are refusing to take coronavirus seriously. They're still holding services where people are in close quarters, which of course could spread COVID-19. And there's one particular evangelical pastor. His name is Jonathan Shuttleworth from Pennsylvania, who's threatening to endanger people's lives by encouraging a mass gathering during this pandemic. Take a look.
I'm going to announce it, but we're going to hold an outdoor Easter blowout service, not online. A national gathering. You can come from all over, like Woodstock. And we're going to gather and lift up Jesus Christ. I'm not ashamed that Dr. Rodney got arrested. I'm ashamed that when they wanted to arrest preachers for having church in an entire state, there was only one to come for.
So I want to give you some more context. Who he's referring to is megachurch pastor Howard Brown, who's 58. He was actually arrested on Monday and accused of violating quarantine orders during a public health emergency and holding service at the River at Tampa Bay Church on Sunday. So for some of these people, not all, but for some of these people, especially some of these megachurch pastors, the money is important to them. Right? That's what drives them. And they don't care about their own parishioners. They are risking the lives of their own parishioners because all they care about is that money. It's incredible.
And by the way, when they pass that money plate around, they all touch it. You take communion in those churches that do, you're all sharing it. So it's a virus utopia. So I got news for you. In a wrestling match between Jesus and science, science is going to win every time. So you're going to be deeply offended, but I'm going to tell you things that are true anyway. So Jesus doesn't cure coronavirus, partly because he doesn't exist. So you can pray all day long, and if you come together to pray for Jesus to save you, you are more likely to die, not less likely to die. That's just a fact, because science doesn't care about your mythology. And science doesn't care about your feelings. And science, I'm offended that you told me that I'm more likely to contract the virus. Okay, you could be offended, but you're still more likely to contract the virus. Science is real, and it's undeniable. So you can go to Jesus, you can go to Muhammad, you can go to Moses, you can go to anyone you like, but it ain't going to help you. The only one that's going to help you is if you go to a doctor. So these guys are trying to get you killed to make more money. That's what's happening. That's real.
So this Pennsylvania pastor, Jonathan Shuttlesworth, even went further to go after pastors who are responsible enough to listen to the recommendations of government officials to keep their parishioners safe. Let's listen to what he had to say about them.
Shame on every European full gospel church. Bunch of sissies that shut down during this thing. Catholic Church not having holy water in the lobby. How holy is the water then? That should be a sign to you that your whole religion's a fraud. Any faith that doesn't work in real life is a fake faith. You don't have anything to do with Brother Hagin. If you're putting out pamphlets and telling everybody to, use Purell before they come into the sanctuary and don't greet anyone, you should just turn in your ministry credentials and burn your church down. Turn it into a casino or something. You're a loser. Just if nobody told you, let me tell you, you're a loser. Bunch of pansies. No balls. Got neutered somewhere along the line and don't even realize it. No mass gathering. Let me tell you, if the devil doesn't want there to be mass gatherings, it's time to hold mass gatherings. If I lived in Italy, I would call an open-air crusade to pray for the sick. If you have to go to jail, go to jail.
I think he should be in jail. He is risking the lives of people. And at the same time, what a weird flex. Like, oh yeah, I don't use Purell before the parishioners come into my church. That's pansy stuff. Okay. Yeah. Weird.
No, the man you just saw is a definition of ignorance. Look, I did a story about a week ago about a pastor who thought if you walk with Jesus, no virus will touch you. He got coronavirus and died. So I told you during that story, that's not an aha moment. It's incredibly sad when anyone dies, even if they were ignorant, even if they were wrong. Okay. I'm not sure I'll feel the same way if it happens to this guy, because this guy is trying to get other people hurt through his ignorance. Because if it just stopped with him and he's going around drinking all the holy water touched by 1,000 other people, and he thinks it's a sissy move to listen to a doctor, all right, have at it, Hoss. Let's see how it turns out for you. But the problem is he's telling other people to get together in mass gatherings and risking their lives. So, look, fundamentalist religion, it's wrong. It is factually incorrect. If you want to cry about that, that's your choice. But I'm right and you're wrong. Science is true and religion is not. That's just a fact. That's a fact. If it makes you emotional, that's fine. No problem. But you're risking your own life by believing in mythology that isn't remotely true.
Yeah, look, everyone, please stay home. for your life and for the lives of others around you, please stay home. But look, Kenneth Copeland, luckily, is fighting COVID-19. Just watch this next video.
In the name of Jesus.
Oh, thank you, Jesus.
Standing in the office of the prophet of God, I execute judgment on you, COVID-19.
Oh, Ramash.
I execute judgment on you, Satan, you destroyer, you killer. You get out. We break your power. You get off this nation. I demand judgment on you. I demand a vaccination to come immediately.
Yes.
I call you done.
He later declared coronavirus dead.
Oh, good. It's solved. So I'm supposed to take these people seriously. I'm supposed to say that a person who sees that and does not believe that that man is insane or a scam artist is a intelligent person, is a person that is as logical as we are. No, sorry, no deal. Other than looking and acting like a Ferengi, Kenneth Copeland is obviously the biggest scam artist in the country, makes Trump look like an amateur scam artist. So, I mean, if you can't see that he's robbing you blind and all of it is fake, there is no end to your ignorance. There is no end to your ignorance. How could you look at that and think, nailed it? He declared coronavirus officially cured on March 29th at noon because he said he talked to Jesus and Jesus ended it. If you believe that, you're the dumbest person alive. And unfortunately, there's a lot of you.
Yeah. And again, you're risking your own life, your family members' lives, and the lives of others around you. This is not a joke. And this isn't an attempt to destroy religious freedom in America. This is a public health crisis. And it's over and over again through this crisis, we are seeing that profits and money are valued way more than the lives of actual people. And it comes from people who claim that they're pro-life. All right, well, that does it for the main show. We have a post game next for our members. Check us out. Go to tyt.com/join to become a member. For everyone else, we'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of the Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.